Tonight, you are going to hear from Imani Ladson, who is WJ's resource counselor. That's the big cheese head counselor. And also, the fabulous Miss Virginia Rodriguez, one of WJ's assistant principals, who is going to start speaking now. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. Wish there was more, and they're going to wish they were here too, because you're going to get some really good information. I've heard this presentation, and I do agree with those senior parents who suggested that they try it a little earlier for you guys. Remember, if you have any questions about anything at any time, feel free to reach out to your child's counselor or your child's administrator. If you go online, you can find us. You can just click and email us or go on to your parent view. I think you can find some of those, some of that information in there. But anything that you need, don't hesitate to ask and ask us about. Once again, welcome and thank you for coming out. I know it's not easy on a work day. Welcome. Ms. Ladson.
Okay, thank you all for coming out on a Wednesday night for some important information. I think by now many of our juniors have started thinking about what's going to happen next year, and after they graduate from high school, they have witnessed the senior signing ceremony that was on Monday. Our seniors gathered in the courtyard and kind of announced to everyone publicly what college they were going to attend, and this usually gets a lot of eyes and a lot of attention, and it starts to ignite a little fire with our juniors that they're coming up next. And so this is a great time for us to really launch and kickstart the college search and application process with our juniors. So as Debbie said, the purpose of this meeting is to share information with parents and students about the steps that students need to take in between now and about over the course of about 10 months from now, 10 to 12 months with applying to college. It is a lengthy process and there are many steps involved, but our goal here is to map out and really chart a timeline for you all that breaks things down into chunks, into manageable pieces, so that you can take it step by step and that students don't feel overwhelmed by trying to apply to college the night before the application is due, right? We want to get ahead of the game and really have a game plan. Okay, so really quickly, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but just to review, before we start talking about leaving WJ and going off to college, we do have to make sure that our students meet the MCPS graduation requirements and they earn their high school diploma. So just this process starts with ensuring that you are meeting high school graduation requirements and also keeping in mind that sometimes those graduation requirements, those basic requirements, are not the same as college entrance requirements, okay? So some students look at the basic high school graduation requirements as their ultimate goal, but keep in mind that some of these colleges are looking for students that go a little bit above and beyond that. Okay, so this is kind of our starting place is the graduation requirements, right? So all of our students need 4 years of English, okay? They should be taking English every single year of high school. All of our students need 4 credits of math. They have to take math all 4 years of high school, including algebra and geometry. All of our students need 3 years of social studies, United States history, national, state, and local government, and modern world history. All students need 3 science credits. For most of our students, that's going to mean biology, chemistry, and physics, but we do have some STEM-focused students in the room who might choose AP Biology, AP Chemistry, AP Physics, or AP Environmental Science. That also meets the graduation requirements. Okay, so those are the core classes, and then our students also need 1 full credit of a basic technology education, 1 full credit of physical education, 1 full credit of art, 1 semester of health, and then for most of our students, especially the college-going students, as their program completer, they often choose the 2 years minimum of a world language. We do have some students that choose a program of study or maybe advanced technology, which is also an option in lieu of world language, but all students must complete one or the other. And in addition to that, 75 student service learning hours are required for all students, and we encourage students to go above and beyond that because colleges really are looking for students that give back to their community, who are not just scrolling through TikTok. Yes, we are getting up and out and involved and volunteering our time in constructive ways. Okay, and then our students also have Maryland state assessments. We're doing those now at the end of the school year in algebra, English 10, government, and life science biology. Okay, so by now, juniors really should have a good foundation of the graduation requirements. That was just a really quick overview, just to make sure we're all on the same page, and now we're ready to launch into post-graduation. Good. Okay. So now we have our timeline and overview of the process. I'm going to start with a general timeline of what needs to happen in the college search process, and then I'm going to break it down by seasons with what students should be doing along the way. So as a first step, we want to encourage our juniors to be thinking about why they want to go to college. What are they looking to get out of it? What is their ultimate career goal? And yes, they will need to graduate and get a job. That is the goal, right? To find gainful employment. Yes, to translate that college major into a career. And so we want students to begin with the end in mind and use these tools that can help them to explore all the possibilities, okay? So in Naviance, as built in with our Naviance scope and sequence, we do lessons with the students about college and career planning in class time, and Naviance has its career interest profiler, Road Trip Nation, several features inside that allow students to explore possible careers, to learn more about what education level is needed for a career, what's that average salary of the career, okay? What kinds of skills and natural aptitudes you need to have to be successful in this career. If you want to be a school counselor, you need to make sure that you're okay with talking to people, okay? So students need to start thinking about what are those soft skills as well as that knowledge that they need to have for that potential career. And we're not asking for students to have it figured out today. We're not asking them to finalize and commit to a career, but to begin thinking about what they would like to do and have an idea when they're applying to college. Okay, so that's kind of a big first step. Step 2 is to think about what is important in a college to the student as an individual, not following the herd, but instead thinking about what is the best fit for me, what makes the most sense for me. And I didn't touch on, I'm sorry, My Next Move is the other link for really career exploration. That website is by the U.S. Department of Labor, and it has a ONET career interest profiler that asks students about what their skills are, what they enjoy doing, and suggests possible careers, and also looks at the outlook of those careers in the next 5, 10, and beyond years. It's a really helpful website as well that I encourage students to check out as they think about possible careers. So, and in finding their right fit, I encourage students to not just think about where their friends are applying, but really think about what makes the most sense for them. College Board Big Future is a resource that I've linked on this step, as well as College Niche. So College Board Big Future, this article that I've linked actually details 10 important factors as you consider your best fit. So what type of learner are you? What kind of environment is going to work best for you as a student? What kinds of academic programs does this school offer? What is their mission and what is their approach to teaching students? Really getting on campus and getting a feel for the culture of that school. And we want students to be able to really see themselves really integrating at this institution and feeling like it's home. And so we encourage students to really think about their best fit. And College Niche has this great Find Your Best Fit quiz, including personal testimonials from students who attend that college or university, so that students can get kind of unfiltered information that's not on the admissions pamphlet about the institution as they learn more about it. Good, so step 3, after students have started to think about their possible career and identified what makes a college a good fit for them, then we want students to start researching and comparing schools, because there are over 4,000 colleges and universities, and students need to narrow down all of those options to the maybe 8, 10, or 12 schools that they'll apply to. And there's lots of ways to do that, right? So every school is not a great fit for every student. And so we encourage them to use the college search features. Once again, in our friend Naviance, okay? As you all were coming in, there was a handout. Walter Johnson High School Naviance Help Guide, and this is going to detail and also show how to get to these different college search features that are available in Naviance. And yes, students and parents have a Naviance account, separate accounts that you can both get on and explore colleges, okay? Good. And then also through College Board Big Future website as well, students can enter their criteria. They can indicate those things that are important to them in a college, and have colleges that meet those criteria that are suggested to them. Naviance also has that feature. And then I also recommend the USDE College Scorecard. I recommend this because it has unbiased data points that can help you to really evaluate a college beyond just US News and World Report and whatever else kind of arbitrary ranking that you're thinking matters in a school. I encourage you to look at USDE College Scorecard, which is going to show you graduation rate, okay? What's the percentage of students who are graduating from this institution? Their retention rate, how many students after that first year are coming back? Okay, so that's going to tell you how supportive this school is in helping their students persist to graduation, which is an important factor. It's also going to show you the average salary of their graduates, as well as the average annual cost, okay? So you get to see what that cost benefit is and weigh that. I also cite here the common data set. So when I did college counseling, this was what we used particularly, the common data set. It's got raw information about what matters to this institution most in admission. Is it GPA? Is it those letters of recommendation? Is it the application? Does relation matter to this institution? Is it that interview? Is it test scores? What are those things that matter most to this institution in the admissions process? How much financial aid are they actually giving out to students? The 25th percentile, 50th percentile, and 75th percentile of those test scores and GPA of admitted students. Okay, so you can really get a much more detailed picture of how this institution is admitting students, and how much scholarships and financial aid are they actually giving out. So common data set, if you go to any college's website, they don't put this on the front page, so it's something that you need to type it into the search bar on that college website, common data set, and then you'll be able to find it for each year. This information is required to be published for any institution that gets federal funding. So great resource. Okay, so once we have identified possible careers, we have identified what a best fit school is, we have started to compare schools, then we want to start to create a tentative list of colleges. And I have linked here, and I'm just gonna show you briefly this college research worksheet. I encourage students to get organized in this process and really be tracking their colleges in an organized way. And all of you will have access to this presentation, so you'll be able to get all of the hyperlinks. But this is a great document to share with your child. You can have it as a Google Doc that's shared with you, so that as they're adding information, adding possible colleges, and you're evaluating them, you can both be looking at it and tracking possible schools and really looking at these different factors and comparing them equally. Things like the location, student body size, admission rate, GPA profile of accepted students, SAT, ACT average, application requirements, and identifying if this school is a likely school, okay? Based on your child's GPA and test scores, are they kind of on par and pretty safely in there with past admitted students? Is it a match school that's kind of, okay, we're in there. We're not above average, but we're kind of average in that admitted pool. Or is this a reach school? Is this a highly competitive institution? And is this a school that maybe we're not really sure what the outcome will be, okay? So I encourage students to break up their lists and have a couple of each. So if they're applying to 9 or 10 schools, you know, 3 of those likely schools, 3 of those match schools, 3 of those reach schools, and dividing that up. What are those majors that the school offers that the student is interested in? What kinds of activities and athletics do they have? What is the contact information of the admissions rep who reads applications for this area? So one thing that students don't always know, and I think in this age of social media, it can be awkward for them to kind of communicate with people that they don't know. And so I encourage students to be demonstrating interest in a college by contacting that admissions rep who reads applications for this area. In a college admissions office, they usually have between 5, 8, 10, sometimes 20 staff, admissions representatives, and they divide the country. And a certain staff member reads applications for Montgomery County, Maryland, maybe, or the state of Maryland, or the DMV region, okay? And that's the person that your student wants to reach out to if they are very interested in the school, and ask questions that aren't available on the website in order to demonstrate their interest. And then on the worksheet here, the students can start to add in those different schools and start to create their college list. And I love the color coding too. Yeah. And you can create your own, you can customize it, you can add columns that are important to your child. If they're applying maybe to art schools and they have to do auditions, things of that nature, maybe they need to customize this a little bit, you can do that. So this is a good starting point example of how to kind of organize those colleges of interest. Good. Okay. And then once we have identified those schools, then we need to get organized with the application requirements. And here is an important piece, I think, where often parents can support their students and hold them accountable most, is in tracking all of the different pieces with each school that they apply to. Is the application on the common application or the coalition application? Or does this school have their own institution-specific application, like Georgetown, for example, that is very stuck in having their own application year after year and their own documents that they request from counselors as well. So common application and coalition application, for those who haven't heard of them yet, are universal applications that students can enter their general information into and then add as many schools that accept this application. So I would say most colleges in the US now accept the common application. Most of them do. And so a lot of our students can really use the Common App to apply to all of their colleges, most if not all. Yes? I believe Naviance does tell you if the school is a Common App school, but I would caution everyone to be sure, especially in these changing times, because schools have been changing their application requirements, especially during the pandemic and coming out of it, to make sure that you are going directly to each college's website, directly to the source on their admissions page, and looking there to see what the application requirements are, because sometimes the schools do change their requirements from year to year, and sometimes Naviance lags on that particular data point. Yes. Okay, good. All right, so that is our general timeline. Now, breaking it down by seasons, okay? So right now we are in the spring of junior year, and so these are the things that our current juniors should be doing. If they haven't already, they should be taking the ACT or SAT or the AccuPlacer if they are planning to go to a community college. One of these tests they should be taking. I do know that the climate is changing with test optional policies, and there are some students who are planning to apply to college test optional. I just encourage you to make sure in the process that you understand what the requirements are for each school that you're applying to, and also keep in mind when you apply test optional to a college, those other application pieces become that much more scrutinized. Grades, rigor of the courses that the student has taken, the essays, the letters of recommendation, and all those other pieces should be strong if you're planning to apply test optional. Yes, ma'am. So I believe the next ACT is in June, but you can always go to the ACT website, act.org, to see what all their test dates are. I believe they have a June and July test date that's coming up. Sure thing. Okay, so students should be taking one of these tests. They should be touring college campuses, getting a feel for what they like, not just to see the building and taste the food in the cafeteria and see what the dorms are like, but to really attend those information sessions and be sure that you schedule a visit through the admissions office so that you can begin to learn what distinguishes colleges from each other. What kinds of special programs matter. I like to think of college visits like dating, okay, for our young people who are growing up and might be thinking about partnering in different ways, right? So maybe at 17 or 18, you don't know what you would want in an ultimate partner, right? You don't know what you might want in a spouse, but as you date, you start to learn, what are my non-negotiables? What's important to me in a spouse? What do I need in order to be happy from my partner? And it's the same thing with colleges. As students start to visit schools, they start to learn, what are those important factors to me? What do I need to have in a college in order to be happy? Oh, I heard at this school that they offer X, Y, and Z, but I visited this other school and they don't have that. And I think that's really important to me. So maybe I need to take this other school off my list. And so going on these visits helps students to start to learn how to identify that best fit school. What are those things that matter to them the most? And that can help them to weed out other colleges that don't stand up. Okay? In spring of junior year, students should also be developing that tentative college list. It's not going to be finalized now, but start getting some schools in mind that interest them. Explore summer jobs, internships, and even pre-college programs. A lot of colleges offer these summer academic programs where students can even start to earn some college credit or just get exposure to what college professors and college rigor is like on a campus. And we sometimes have students who attend a pre-college program at UMD, for example, or at another institution, and they really fall in love with the campus. They really enjoy that summer program, and then they end up applying there, okay? So I encourage students to be using their time constructively. Again, not scrolling through TikTok. That is not a summer activity, okay? Our juniors should also be completing their SSL hours, getting involved, getting active, not only to complete that graduation requirement, but also to gain experience and become more worldly and develop those soft skills that will help them to be successful in college and life beyond. We also want our juniors to request 2 teacher letters of recommendation. This is a good time for our juniors to start approaching a teacher that they feel would be able to write good things on their behalf and ask them if they'd be willing to write their college recommendation. We just want students to kind of secure that in the spring of this year. Most of our teachers write the letters over the summer or in the early fall ahead of the college application deadlines, which will be November, December, January, and some as late as February. Yes? That's a good question. So the question is, does it matter if the teacher that the student is requesting a letter from had the student in class during sophomore year, 10th grade, or junior year? So I would say it is safest to choose junior year teachers. Some colleges specifically require that letters of recommendation come from a junior year teacher. I have heard of a small group of students that actually require 1 letter from a 10th grade teacher and 1 from a junior year teacher because they want to see your development over time. But for most schools, junior year teachers are safe. And so most colleges are not interested in a letter of recommendation from a teacher you had in 9th grade. You're a very different learner. in your senior year and junior year than you were in ninth grade. And so really focusing on junior year teachers is going to be your best bet there. Good question. Okay, and then of course we want our students to make sure that they are enrolled in the courses that they need for graduation and college admission. I have sometimes had students realize that as they start to go on college visits and they start to learn more about admission requirements to college, that they want to change their classes for senior year because they're realizing that they haven't really set themselves up to be a competitive applicant. So that's something to think about. Okay, and then over the summer, we, our college and career information coordinators, CCICs, Ms. Gail Evans, offers these summer workshops on everything from college essay writing to financial aid to how to research colleges to how to stand out in that stack of thousands of applications that in admissions rep is reading through. How can you make your Common App stand out from the rest? Okay, so there's going to be several workshops on that we really encourage students to attend, parents as well, but especially students to get that information. And we invite in, like the CAC does throughout the year, admissions representatives who can come to talk about directly from the horse's mouth what they're looking for in their applicants. So it's a good opportunity to get that insight from admissions reps. Over the summer, we want our students to preview the Common Application essay prompts at commonapp.org and begin drafting their personal statement essay. We encourage students to do a couple of drafts of that essay and be sure that it is free of grammar and punctuation mistakes, that it is in the student's voice, and that it really helps that admissions representative to learn something about the student that's not evident in their numbers, in their transcript, in their test score, in their GPA, but something that's personal to the student. And then we also want our families to schedule a one-on-one post-secondary planning meeting with your counselor. Our school counseling team wants to meet one-on-one with each of our rising seniors to know what you're planning for after graduation. We want to help you get there. We want to know what it is that the student is planning. And also, we want that check-in time to really be able to speak with the student candidly and get to know them a little bit more, because in addition to your teacher letters of recommendation, colleges also require a counselor letter of recommendation, and sometimes students forget that, that you'll need both a teacher and counselor letter, and your counselor wants to be able to write a detailed and personal letter on your behalf, and so we want to meet. Okay, so some of our counselors have already started these meetings this spring, and so you'll be getting contacted by your child's school counselor to schedule that meeting. And then we also want our, question, yes. Mm-hmm. That's correct. So August 1st is when Common App rolls over, yes. So that's why I say preview the application essay prompts and draft your personal statement essay, because the personal statement prompts, the essay questions, the essay prompts don't usually change from year to year, but we don't want students applying to the class of 2023 when they are in fact 2024. So that is a good point to raise. For those that don't know, students should not start working on their Common Application until after August 1st. That's when they flip and the applicants for the class of 2024 can start applying to colleges. So in early summer, you just want to be previewing and drafting those essays to have them ready to upload once that August 1st flip happens. We also want our students to complete the counselor recommendation questionnaire. So in the past, it's been this student self-evaluation. We got rid of that and decided that we wanted to revamp the questions and really make them more helpful for the counselor as we write your letter of recommendation. Again, trying to have a detailed and personal letter on the student's behalf. And so we updated those questions and we renamed it Counselor Recommendation Questionnaire. So we want our students to complete that fully. Also complete their resume in Naviance or outside of Naviance. If they want to format it on their own, students can do that. But inside of Naviance, there is a resume feature that we encourage students to use. And then there is a very helpful, optional, not required, but very helpful parent questionnaire in Naviance. There is no one that knows your child better than you as their parent. And you've known your child the last 17, 18 years, whereas the counselor has only known them maybe 3, maybe 2. Okay, so that parent questionnaire is very helpful for the counselor to know as well, again, to write that really detailed and strong letter of recommendation on their behalf. And then students can also, if necessary, plan to retake the SAT or ACT, or possibly consider applying test optional. And then in the fall of senior year, this is where it all goes down. Okay, so fall of senior year, our seniors now in 12th grade need to finalize their college list, including those likely match and reach schools, confirm their letters of recommendation with their teachers, and notify teachers of their earliest deadline at least 1 month in advance. Okay, so in the spring, you are approaching the teacher. Miss Baker, I have really enjoyed your Honors Algebra 2 class this year, and I've learned so much in your course, and I would be very appreciative if you would write me a letter of recommendation. Will you do that for me, please? You have the conversation in the spring. Then, fall of senior year, you follow up. Thank you so much again for agreeing to write my letter of recommendation. This is both a reminder to the teacher and also notifying them of that earliest college application deadline that the student has. If that's November 1st or November 15th, maybe December 1st, let that teacher know how much time they have to get it done, okay? Then in the fall of senior year, students are also going to finalize those college application essays and the actual application questions. And I was chatting with a parent prior to the start of this meeting, and so just want to also put folks on alert that in addition to that longer 500 to 600 word personal statement essay, a lot of colleges also have supplemental questions or supplemental essays. These are smaller, short answer questions that are specific to the institution, and so students also need to be aware of that, that it's not only going to be their personal statement essay that they send to each college, but also each college will have additional supplements. Okay, so something to be aware of. Yes? Mm-hmm. Face-to-face. Follow-up can be an email, but the initial should be face-to-face. It's an important skill. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So you will go into Naviance as well, and you on the colleges tab, teacher recommendations is where you will choose the teacher's name that you are, that has agreed to write your letter of recommendation, because you've already had a conversation, the teacher has already agreed, and so now you're following up to send the link from Naviance that will allow the teacher to upload the letter. And students are able to see once that letter is uploaded into Naviance and ready to roll. Yes. In the fall of senior year, families should also be applying for financial aid by completing the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, and the CSS profile if necessary. It's usually private institutions that require the CSS profile. Every college will require the FAFSA, but the CSS profile is usually just private institutions. It's a little bit more nosy. Yes. The FAFSA and CSS profile open October 1st, and the early bird gets the worm, okay? Colleges do not have an unlimited supply of funds. Those funds are finite, and as students are admitted and financial aid is awarded, that fund dwindles, and the early bird does indeed get the worm, okay? So I encourage you to apply as close to October 1st as possible. Then students should also be, oh yes. That's a good question. I don't remember. Exactly, the millennial in me almost just pulled up Google, but I'll get that for you by the end. CSS profile. It's on the College Board website. I know that, but I don't remember the acronym. Yes. Yes, good question. So you actually fill out the FAFSA each year that your child is in college. But the good news is if you have an older child that's in college, they take that into account, and so you'll be eligible for more financial aid when you send a second. So something to think about for those families in the room. Okay, good. Okay, so seniors should also be researching local and national scholarships. Naviance has a feature for that as well as different scholarship search engines. In our College and Career Information Center, we have a list of different search engines that students can use to identify possible scholarships. In the fall of senior year, we encourage our students to attend college visits at Walter Johnson or to actually go to the college campus. We do have college admissions reps. Thank you. College Scholarship Service Profile, that is the acronym. Gotta love Google. Okay, so then, yes, so in the fall we host college admissions reps that come around to high schools and give information sessions to students. This is a great way to demonstrate interest and actually match a name with a face with the admissions rep who is likely reading applications for this region and deciding if that application goes to committee and ultimately admittance, okay? So it's a great opportunity to make sure that you go to those college visits that we have in the fall. And then of course, our seniors also need to request their official high school transcripts to be sent from Walter Johnson directly to the college or university, as well as those letters of recommendation to be sent. Ms. Evans, again, is our College and Career Information Coordinator, and she sends all of those documents on behalf of our students. Okay, so this is really what should be happening. Yes? Okay, so we're going to get into that. This is a good question. So To request transcripts and letters of recommendation, we have a transcript request form. It's hot pink, so you can't miss it. And students complete one transcript request form per college that they are applying to, and they turn it in to Miss Evans in the College and Career Center. I think I saw a hand in the back. Yes. Correct. So the teacher who agrees to write the letter of recommendation will upload it into Naviance, and our College and Career Information Coordinator, Miss Evans, pulls the trigger. She's the one that sends it all to the colleges. It is confidential, so the students won't get to read the letter, and it doesn't get sent to them, but it is sent directly from us to the college or university. Yes. Yes, please. Yes. Okay, so there are some schools, I would say a smaller group of schools, that only require and only will read one letter of recommendation. Some schools are strict about that. And so on the transcript request form, the student designates which teacher letter they want to go. On the transcript request form, there's a space that we have. Which teacher letter do you want to go? And the student writes that in onto the form. Yeah. Good question. Correct. So the first 5 transcripts being sent are free, and after the 5th one, it is $5 per transcript request. Cash or check, or, I'm sorry, it's school payment online now, OCS, okay, online school payment. School cash online, that's it. Okay, so all of those options. Okay, I want to share some reminders about college visits. For those who don't know, students are allowed 3 excused, you heard it right, excused absences from school that students can go to visit colleges. Yes, they can get permission from you, their parent, to, I recommend make it a long weekend, you know, and hit 4, 5, 6 schools on the road, and really get a chance to get on campus and get that feel. Prior to the visit, students should fill out the notification of anticipated absence form. That is our WJ form that students fill out to let their teachers know that they're going to miss class, find out what assignments they're going to miss while they're gone, and have a plan in mind for making that work up, and having the absence excused by our attendance secretary. Okay? All students. Good question. But you only get 3 per year. So then, prior to the college visit, I encourage families to be sure to schedule an official campus tour and information session with the admissions office. Don't just show up to the campus. It is really best to hear that information about what they're looking for in their applicants and what kinds of special programs they offer with that information session with the admissions office. And also, of course, once again, demonstrate interest. If students don't know where to start, my advice is to consider visiting different types of schools, and you can start even in Maryland. If students don't know what size college campus would be a best fit for them, they can start by going to a place like UMD, College Park, University of Maryland College Park, for that large campus feel, and then maybe choose a mid-size institution, maybe something like a George Mason University or Towson's on the larger side, Towson University. Salisbury is smaller to mid-size-ish. Frostburg maybe. Get a feel. And then the smaller college, like a McDaniel maybe, or like a St. Mary's College of Maryland, just to see what these different campus sizes feel like. And again, start to build, what are those things that matter to me in a college? What are my non-negotiables? What is going to make a school feel like home to me as a student? Okay, and keep an open mind. I encourage students to really lean into what feels good to them rather than what the herd is doing and what's happening with their peers. During the visit, I encourage students to ask the same questions at each school and take notes on those answers so that you can compare the answers across all schools. Some students make the mistake of asking certain questions at one school and not asking them at others, and so they're not able to really compare apples to apples. They're kind of comparing apples to oranges. So I encourage you to think about those questions that you want to ask, and ask them at all schools, and be able to compare what those responses are. And of course, ask questions that are not easily researchable on the website. Ask personal questions. Try to speak with actual students about their real experience at the school. And I have a helpful checklist here as well that's linked that can help students to maximize their college visit. Okay, so this is from NACAC. And so this has those different types of questions that you can ask and those things that you should look to do on a college visit so that you can discern if this college is a good fit. Okay? All right. Some reminders about college applications. Students should get firsthand information directly from the school's website about their application requirements, not from friends or third-party websites. I am disheartened to say I have had a couple of seniors over my years at Walter Johnson who have come to me, boo-hoo crying, okay, eyes washed. Ms. Ladson, I didn't know that I needed this requirement. My friend Your friend gave you wrong information, okay? I have had students who have come up after the college application deadline, after realizing that they will not be admitted based on what they thought the application requirements were from their friend. Please, students, do not get information from your peers. You need to go directly to the college's website to find out what is required and make sure that you submit all of those materials before the deadline, okay? It is very important that students get organized in this process and be on top of the requirements and the deadlines. Students should be sure to communicate with their teacher recommenders, with their school counselor, and Ms. Evans before the deadline regarding their letters of recommendation and transcript. Submit everything in a timely manner. Write 2 to 3 drafts of your college essay and ask a peer and an adult to read it, checking for authenticity, spelling and grammar, and making sure that the essay is written in the student's voice. College admissions reps know when an essay was not written by a high school student, okay? They are very trained at this, and they know when they're reading an essay that wasn't authored by an 18-year-old, okay? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so students can get feedback from their school counselor, from Ms. Evans, from Our English Writing Center also gives feedback for students on their essays. Now students need to come with a draft. We're not going to write it, but we can give feedback. Yes. Yes, it used to be an assignment. I know the county did away with it. I know. Yes, please. "30 days prior to the college's application deadline." Okay, so for those that didn't hear what she said, she asked about the due date for the transcript request form. We want to be sure that your high school transcript and your letters of recommendation are sent on time, and so do you. So please request these documents 30 days in advance to ensure that it is sent on time. And Ms. Evans is never late, but please don't push it, okay? So please give us advance notice. And then my personal tip as well, if students see optional, recommended, suggested, but not required application pieces, do it. Always do it, okay? I went to Kenyon College for undergrad, small liberal arts college in Ohio, and I worked in admissions at Kenyon also. There was an optional essay supplement that Kenyon had as part of their application. And I learned from working in admissions that they did not admit any student who did not do that optional essay. That told the college that you're serious about their school. So please, if you're really interested in a school, if you're not that interested, do the bare minimum. But if you are very interested in the school, if you see anything that says suggested optional, maybe do it, suggested not required, do it. It will make a difference. Okay, so finally, I also, well, actually, I have a couple more slides, but these are our Walter Johnson counselor assignments. All students are assigned a counselor based on their grade level and the spelling of their last name alphabetically. If you don't remember who your school counselor is, there it is on the screen. I also gave a handout that was outside. What school counselors do, as a reminder, not just the college application process, we do much more. And then all of our counselor assignments are on the back as well. School counselors are here to help. We want to help. And we're very interested in helping our current juniors, rising seniors to meet their goals, whatever that is. I also want to highlight this handy packet that really goes into detail with checklists of what juniors need to be doing to apply to college. Okay, so this was a handout at the door as well. This packet, okay? And it's going to show you, again, this timeline and the steps that I detailed. It's going to have steps for how to request transcripts and letters of recommendation, where to click in Naviance to request teacher recommendations, how to see when it's been uploaded, information about the SAT, ACT, and Khan Academy, and the differences between these tests, senior checklists with all those things to do. We encourage students to print this out and check it off as they get things done, okay? And things to know in the college application process. This packet was handed out to all juniors a couple weeks ago, actually. School counselors went into all of the junior English classes to talk about post-secondary planning and start to present information about the college application process. And we practiced using some of the college search tools in Naviance during that lesson. And all juniors were given this handout as well so that they have it. Okay. So I also want to highlight a team of our school counselors, 4 of them actually, Mr. Rossi, Mr. Stradley, Miss Dodge, and Miss Weddle came together to make a presentation about the college application process, like mine, but a little bit different, that really just focuses on the nuts and bolts. What do juniors need to do? What are the steps that they need to take for requesting letters of recommendation? What do they need to upload? And what are those action items for them? And they made a webinar of that information so that students can refer back to it. And we'll be sending this out to all juniors and asking them to watch it. And so in addition to our post-secondary planning meetings, this webinar is supposed to go hand in hand so that really during that one-on-one meeting, we can focus specifically on the student and not those general application nuts and bolts, but really what's your intended major and what are your individual goals? And let's talk about how I can help you specifically along the way. Okay, so this is meant to kind of increase access for our students. Questions, more questions. Let's do some more questions. Yes. Yes, okay, so all students can log on to clever.com if they don't remember their Naviance username and password so that they can bypass having to remember their Naviance username and password, and they use their MCPS credentials that they log in every day, and they can easily get on to Naviance because we had the issue with kids forgetting their. Parents cannot, I don't think. A good question. I don't think parents can use clever.com. Yeah, like if you were to log in as your student. But you want to log in on your own parent account, though, to Naviance, because you get one, too. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for the question. Okay, so the question was about early decision versus early action versus regular decision, and how might that affect your admissions chances, right? So for those who are unfamiliar with the terms, early decision is a binding agreement that you make with the college that if they accept you, that you will enroll 100%, okay? So early decision application deadlines are usually November 1st, November 15th maybe, and you hear back from the college much earlier as well, and you know whether or not you're admitted. And in some cases, this can help to increase your likelihood of being accepted, keeping in mind that often that early decision applicant pool is a stronger pool of applicants. So you want to make sure that you really have your best foot to put forward if you're planning to apply early decision. And then there's early action as well. Usually those deadlines are around the same time, November 1st, November 15th, December 1st, but this is non-binding. And so students can still compare offers and they get that earlier notice of whether or not they were admitted. So they're notified maybe by Christmas in some cases, whether or not they are admitted. And I would say most of our students at Walter Johnson apply by that early action or that early deadline, early decision deadline. Yes, question in the pink. What's that? I think we have another microphone here, if you want to take that one. Mr. Mulhern, is this mic on so that we can bring it around? Thank you so much. I think the question was about financial aid, but I wanted to hear the rest of the question. Thank you so much, hon. Oh, I don't think it's on still. Did we turn it on? Are you going to project?
Are these decisions tied to financial aid acceptance or scholarships?
Early decision
Yes.
and early action.
Yes.
So, good question. My recommendation is that if you are planning to compare not only offers of admission, but also those financial aid award letters, that you not apply early decision. If you are planning to compare scholarships and financial aid, early action is going to be the way to go, or regular decision if you decide to apply by the regular.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, the good thing is that early action is not binding, and so you'll have until May 1st, decision day, college decision day, to send in that enrollment deposit and commit. I would say most of our students apply early action. Yes. Rolling admissions. Okay, so there are some schools that have rolling admission. These are usually schools that have minimal application requirements, and we have some students who apply rolling admission and they hear back within a couple of weeks if they're admitted or not. And so rolling admission is another option. And these institutions that are rolling admission continue to accept students until they filled their freshman class. So I've heard of some rolling admission schools accepting applications into March, April, May sometimes. Yes, question here.
With so many schools being test optional, when we're looking online and seeing average SAT and ACT scores, does it seem that those are elevated now because those are the kids who had submitted scores as opposed to the kids who didn't submit, but other things were good? Like, I feel like it's a little tricky in there now, or am I overthinking? It is.
It is tricky. It's a good question that we discussed at our counseling advisory committee meeting that we need to take back to the Naviance programmers, that now that schools are test optional, when we're looking at that scattergram data to see who those students are who were admitted, it would be helpful to know if they applied test optional or not. Because some of those students might have applied test optional. It did not send in that lower test score, but it's showing up on the scattergram that they were admitted, right? So that's a good question. And that's something we'll definitely elevate to Naviance. Yes, here. With the
How do we get access to the slides?
Yes, okay, so they will be posted by our lovely CAC on the website. Very good question. Thank you for asking that. I want to be sure that everyone can get to the hyperlinks within. Yes.
I should know this already, but I'm sorry. Does WJ rank their kids in terms of like class rank? Because I know a lot of colleges ask that.
Good question. A lot of colleges do ask that, but MCPS schools do not rank students. And so there's a box on the application that will say, my school does not rank. And so students need to check that. No. There's no rank. No rank in MCPS. All students are special. Yes, please.
Parents also get a copy of the nuts and bolts slideshow that you mentioned as well?
Yes. I have it linked here. Yes. Okay, so the counselors will be sending it out to you, but it's also in this presentation. So this is the slide deck of that presentation that our counselors developed, and it's within my presentation. the webinar is also here with the passcode. So parents can watch it, students can watch it. It increases access for all. Watch it together. Yes, please. Oh,
Sorry, I have
The mic,
have a
please.
microphone. The transcript request, I noticed on there you said to note if your child is part of Apex or LEAD or other. How does that actually show up on the transcript?
good question. So for our students who are in the APEX program, in ACES or LEAD, or taking a Montgomery College dual enrollment course, we send an addendum letter that goes with the transcript. So on the MCPS high school transcript, that's a county consistent document for all students, and so it's not going to show our WJ specific programs. It doesn't show APEX, it doesn't show ACES LEAD, and so we send an addendum that goes along with the transcript explaining to the college this student was in this program. These are the qualifications and criteria for this student. To be in this program, we have a selection process, and that these are special programs at our school. It's an addendum letter. Yes, microphone, please. And then will
See
you
if I
pass it
can,
to that
oh,
gentleman?
good, it's working, yes, okay. In the Naviance section, there's a sentence that says, seniors applying to schools using the Common App will also be required to match their Common App account
Correct.
to their Naviance student account.
Correct.
Can you just explain that a bit? What is it that's going on there?
Yes, so students will link their Common App account with their Naviance account, and that will allow us to electronically send their teacher recommendations and their transcript to those colleges that they have applied to through Common App.
So are there due dates for the transcript and recommendation letters generally the same date for the student application deadline, or they are different depending on the school?
So every school, there's very few schools that don't require a letter of recommendation. Most schools do require both, and so students will request both a transcript and a letter of recommendation at the same time, and we as a school send them both.
So
That's a
my
good
question
question.
is,
It's a good
is
question.
the due date the same as the
Oh,
application
yes.
deadline?
Oh, yes. Yes, they need to be in by the application deadline, which is why we're asking for advance notice when you request them. Good question.
Thank you.
Will you pass the mic to the gentleman behind you? Thank you so much.
Do the
Did you have
do the recommendation letters have to be from the teachers who have taught the student who is going to choose the subjects in the college, or it can be different?
Good question. This is a very good question. So sometimes when students are applying to an engineering school, for example, or an art school, they will specifically require that letters of recommendation come from a science or a math teacher, or a technology teacher, or a music teacher in the case of an art school. So sometimes those schools do have specific requirements about who the letter of recommendation needs to come from, and it's going to be important for those students who are going a more specialized route to pay attention to those nuances and the requirements. That's a good question. Question in the front?
Any suggestions or guidance about specifying if your intended major is undecided versus specifying, like picking something when you do the application? Any recommendation on that?
Oh, I didn't know that some schools didn't allow that. That's interesting. Wow. That's mean. Okay. So some colleges are apparently not allowing students to apply undecided. But I would say, right, at the majority of colleges, students don't have to commit to a major until the sophomore year. So even if they're indicating a top major of interest as an incoming freshman, they still have an opportunity to change. That's what I did. I came in as an English major and ended up sociology and American studies. So there are those opportunities to change, but I will say for students who are planning pre-medical majors, nursing, programs like that, it is more difficult to change. Those students have to come in, start with the end in mind. It's a little bit more tricky when you're in the medical or engineering as well. But those students usually know. I think I saw a microphone, yes.
Thank you for doing this, first of all. So I have an athlete, and we've already been meeting with coaches and have done college visits, and they're already asking for transcripts.
Oh, yes.
So are they transcripts coupled with applications? We're still not sure where we're going to go, obviously, but what do we tell them?
Oh, yes. So I was an athlete as well. I played basketball. College coaches want to make sure that students are going to be academically eligible to play. And so it is commonplace for the coach to request a copy of the transcript ahead of the application just to make sure that the student will pass through the NCAA clearinghouse and be academically eligible. So you can request a copy of your child's transcript from our school registrar, and she can give it to you so that you can share it with college coaches. Good question. For you to have a copy, for you personally, you don't have to pay for that. You go right to the registrar and you have access to your child's records. But when we are sending them to colleges, that's different. For the college application process, that's where the first 5 are free, and then after the 5th one, there's the $5 fee.
Is there any ratio between out-of-state and in-state students for any college?
Who is speaking? Okay. I'm really big on eye contact. Okay, go ahead.
Is there any ratio for any college between out-of-state and in-state students?
There is a tuition difference between in-state and out-of-state students for sure. I would say, right, unless it's private. So for public colleges and universities, they will have that in-state tuition and that out-of-state tuition. And also at public universities that receive federal funds, they are required to enroll a certain number of in-state students as well in order to keep their state funding. So unless the school is private, of course, in which case they get to do whatever they'd like.
Thank you.
Yes.
Let me echo the thanks for doing this and
You're
doing a great
welcome.
job. So what are the nuts and bolts associated with letters of recommendation that might be from activities outside the school?
Okay. So there are some schools that will accept and read supplemental letters of recommendation from, say, a coach, from a manager at work, from your stage director, Mr. Mulhern, from a advisor, from a spiritual or religious advisor that maybe you have a close relationship with. Yes, some colleges will read those additional letters of recommendation from those people. You just want to check on which schools do that. Like I know UMD College Park, for example, will only take and read 2 letters of recommendation. Nothing more, nothing less, right? So it depends on the institution. Good question. These are really good questions. Yes, Grace. Can you rephrase the question? I'm sorry, Grace. For acceptance rates. USDE, a college scorecard. That's what I would say. Grace asked, which website can we trust for the acceptance rates? Because sometimes those numbers are different across websites. So I would say USDE's college scorecard is going to be accurate. Also that common data set that I mentioned. That's what I would go to. Yes. This is a good question. So, some of our teachers have their own requirements for letters of recommendation. Like I've seen Mr. Choi's got his whole questionnaire that has to be completed if you want a recommendation from Mr. Choi. So, once the teacher agrees, the student should ask, what information can I provide to you? Some of the teachers will just look at that questionnaire in Naviance. Some of them just want a resume. Some of them might have their own questionnaire that they've developed. It depends on the teacher. Good question.
And many of them limit the number they will do.
Correct. Some of our teachers set a cap on the number of recommendations that they will do. And we appreciate their time for writing those, that they don't have to do.
So thank you all for coming. Thank you so much, Ms. Larkin.
Yeah.
For being here.
These were really great questions.
I do want to say for everyone considering test optional schools, many schools are still, some are still deciding, but many have already decided that even though they have been test optional for our students, because I have a junior as well, they will no longer be test optional. So make sure if you're planning to apply to a school and you're basing it on what you've seen this year, that you check again because the criteria may have changed. So thank you very much. Please, you're going to get an email. Do the survey. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. And go home.